This is the T-34, a Soviet tank that did not just fight in World War II, it helped define how the war was fought. At a time when many tanks were slow, fragile, or overly complex, this one struck a balance that changed everything. It was fast, it was tough, and most importantly, it could be built in massive numbers. This was not just a machine, it was a turning point. In 1941, when Operation Barbarossa began, the Soviet Union was caught off guard. German forces advanced quickly, cutting through large portions of Soviet territory. Many Soviet tanks at the time were outdated. Their armor was too thin, their mobility was limited, and they were often easy targets for German anti-tank weapons. The Red Army needed something new, not just a better tank, but a completely different approach to tank design. That solution arrived in the form of the T-34. One of its most important innovations was sloped armor. Instead of flat, vertical plates, the armor was angled. Effective armor thickness increased significantly. This meant incoming shells were more likely to deflect, and even when they hit, they had to pass through more material. In simple terms, the tank became harder to destroy without needing much more weight. It was also highly mobile. Wide tracks allowed it to move across mud, snow, and rough terrain where other tanks would struggle or get stuck. This combination of protection and mobility made it extremely effective in real combat conditions. When German forces first encountered the T-34, they were not prepared for it. Many of their standard anti-tank weapons had difficulty penetrating its armor. At the same time, the T-34's gun was powerful enough to deal serious damage in return. This forced Germany to rethink its own designs, eventually leading to the development of more advanced tanks. But in those early encounters, the T-34 had the advantage. However, the true strength of the T-34 was not just in its design. It was in how many could be built. The Soviet Union moved entire factories east, away from the front lines, and continued production under extreme conditions. Workers operated long hours, often with limited resources, to keep tanks rolling off assembly lines. The result was overwhelming. Tens of thousands of T-34s were produced during the war. Even if individual tanks were lost, more would arrive to take their place. This ability to replace losses quickly became a decisive advantage. Despite its strengths, the T-34 was not perfect. The interior was cramped, making it difficult for the crew to operate efficiently. Visibility was limited, which could make battlefield awareness a challenge. Early models also suffered from reliability issues and rough construction. But these flaws were accepted as a trade-off. Because the tank was simple, it was easier to produce and repair. And in war, that mattered more than perfection. By the end of World War II, the T-34 had become one of the most important tanks ever built. Its design influenced future tanks around the world, particularly in how armor and mobility were balanced. Even today, it is remembered as one of the most effective armored vehicles of its time. Not because it was the most advanced, but because it was the most practical, reliable enough, strong enough, and built in numbers that could not be ignored. The T-34 did not just fight a war, it helped change how wars are fought.